questions for Coach White?
All right, Mark's mentioned a few times you all have gotten thin up front. Have you seen guys emerge, though, who are getting more reps than maybe they would have otherwise?
Yeah, anytime you can just get younger guys in and get reps, and especially you talk about those two mid-year freshmen, and Gerard and Brian, like reps are invaluable. Good reps, bad reps, like you can teach Alpha all of them. So to get all of those has been great. But yeah, I mean that's spring. Things happen. Certain positions can get thin. You may have not thought they were going to get thin, and they do. But all those reps have been great for those guys. All those young guys.
For a mid-year lineman, is the biggest adjustment just the physicality, the guys they're going
the
against?
speed, the physicality, the technique. The people forget you have to be so technically sound up front. You take when a guy is only 6 inches away and he wants to maul you, and you take a bad step, it puts you in a bad spot. Like your hand placement, that is vital. Like everybody thinks about it from a DB and all that. Hey, listen, it's what Coach Stu and he preaches every single day. That's why they get the most individual time every single day to make sure that that's honed in.
What about the physicality throughout the whole defense? I know it's something they always take pride in. Are you seeing that from this group, and how are they embracing that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, spring can get a little bit hard. I like it at the line of scrimmage. When you're not tackling to the ground. I mean, I think so much of a defense, is determined by their ability to tackle, and you can only see so much of that. But I do like our blocker take on block destruction. You've got to take care of each other teammate wise, right? So when you're getting off a block and you can't sling, a guy to the ground, you're trying to keep him up. There's some times that things can get a little bit soft at the line of scrimmage. You have to give, for the betterment of the practice. And so, we talk about the D-line, right? We really control the pass rush in terms of, hey, we got to pull off bull rushes, collapsing pockets. The O-line has to be smart in terms of the run game and not finishing blocks as if we're going to give ground a little bit. So it's just working together, and that's, Coach talks about all the time. It's like it's practicing as a pro. And so, but I like the approach. They're coming out with a ton of energy, at all levels right now. And so, but now we're sort of right in the middle of spring ball. So I think the next, 2 or 3 practices will really sort of cement, the quote dog days of it, right? Like you come out the first week or the first week and a half. The first week you're just excited to be out. Those are helmets. Then the next couple of days you're excited because you finally put the shoulder pads on. Now you're in we've been going at this a while. Positions are getting a little bit thin. Now I'm taking more reps. Man, I'm tired. My legs are tired. Oh, man, I've got a final exam. I've got a paper. I've got a mentor. Who can physically and mentally push through? And that's what we're going to see over the next couple of practices.
You mentioned last season, and kind of piggyback off the dog days, you wanted to keep your guys uncomfortable because we all get into a rut sometimes.
Yep.
How do you keep young guys that keep them out of getting into that rut?
I don't think you have to worry with young guys because all of the the pace of play, what they have to deal with from a college environment, it's all new. Every day is a new day with them. So I don't think you have to worry nearly as much. For them, it's trying to keep them in a singular is probably too tight, but only give them a couple of things to think about. They're not in a place now and comfortable enough with the entire defense to give them too many things to think about. Think about you. Think about offense. Think about hey, I want you to get better on your first step today.
So do you worry about the older guys getting
the older guys? You do, right? The older guys. But I think this has been a good group that, they do enough to challenge each other. and they expect a lot of each other. You know, a guy that jumps out, a guy like Max Hairston, right? If he has a good rep, but the plant and drive isn't quite perfect, he's in a good position, he'd make the tackle, but he could have had a PBU in practice. You know, I think he's hard on himself because he knew, okay, how can I transition better? He's not in a position right now or a mindset right now to say, all right, that was a great play. If you're lazy or you're just trying to go through the motions, you're fine. You're like, coach, I had it, I tagged off the hip. But you can see in his eye, like he wants to make every play. That's what the older guys are at right now, and that's what I expect of, and that's what every position coach is demanding of their old guys. I want you to make every play. I want you to expect that you're going to make every play.
What's the next step you want to see from Ty Bryant after the way he played last year?
Yeah, now it just becomes consistency. It's stacking years, right? It's, you know, he had a couple of good games, I thought, and he would probably readily admit, you know, sort of down the stretch, you know, when you play a full SEC season and you're a true freshman and you played as many snaps, it kind of probably the monkey jumped on his back, and he slowed down a little bit the last couple of games. And now it's about getting to that point physically and mentally that you can handle the full length and the full load.
What do you think about the secondary overall? I know Max is pretty steady. You know what you're getting with him, but what about the rest of the group?
Yeah, we've had some ups and some downs, you know, which you'd expect. I think the offense is doing a great job, you know, in terms of stressing, you know, the coverages that we're playing on certain days, and you know, it's putting a lot on those guys, which is good. Like, they need to feel that stress. You don't want them to go through spring ball and think everything's easy and everything just matches up clean. You're going to have to win one-on-one matchups. You're going to have to win deep balls down the field. Yeah, so I think it's really kind of by the day been a little bit up and down at times. But I think every position group, not just the secondary, that's part of spring ball, and then you challenge them, and I think they've rebounded for the most part. But yeah, I mean, it's hard on some of the plays. You know, they're going to be bang bang, and now when it's live ball, can he make that play? You know, you pull off because you're trying to protect a receiver, so bodies don't get tangled. You know, it's like finishing at the top of the rush for a pass rusher. Yeah, it looks good. We can all say, hey, when you pulled off the quarterback, oh, yeah, that would have been a sack. All right. I mean, we go through fall camp and you pull off a quarterback and it looks like we had 40 sacks, right? You get into the game and all you got is whatever the number is. So the ability to finish when the moment calls for it, and so much of that just happens on game day.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, what have you seen so far from Christian's story? Like, have you liked anything that you've seen so far from him?
No, I haven't liked anything. No, I'm just teasing. No, it's been a pretty easy transition for him. You know, in terms of he's got so many bank reps now. It was early on, right? It's like anything else. It's translation. Like, okay, this what I'm used to calling is now this, and so we've sort of worked through that translation piece, and every day, you know, just playing faster and faster, getting more comfortable. Communicating, knowing who I communicate with on certain calls. But yeah, I think every practice he's looked more comfortable and more natural back there. And again, you know, having veterans playing next to helps, you know, and it brings those guys along faster.
J.Q. Hardaway, how's he progressing second year in the system? I mean, what do you want to see from him moving forward?
Yeah, you know, all these guys, I just want to see them just continue to get better, you know, and you know, instead of trying to single anybody out, like, it's just all about just getting better, you know, for these guys.
From your perspective, can you talk about what quarterback Brock, you know, poses as a threat to defenses?
Yeah, I always, you know me, I'm not a big fan of talking about our offense because I don't ever like to. I don't know what I'm supposed to say or not say. You know, I don't want to give away, you know, corporate secrets. What I will say is that he's an unbelievable young man that's really, really talented, and he poses a lot of threats, both with his arm and his legs, which stresses a defense big time. Because as soon as you think you finally got all those routes covered and all those great receivers covered up, and all right, we've got the deep ball taken care of, and boom, he slides out of the pocket and he can run for a big gain. And you're like, goodness gracious, and now you got to account for that. So having that aspect, it's a huge threat, and he cares so much. There's a reason that this team's going to follow him.
I guess without giving too much away, how helpful has it been with the tempo, being able to face that every day? Now that they're going a little quicker, do you think that's something that could help you guys when you guys face other tempo offenses? There's
no question. I mean, I think it's great for all sides, and pace of play. It's what college football is, right? And you got to be able to adjust to it and work through the mechanisms. And guys, you talked about last year making them uncomfortable, right? That naturally creates some uncomfortability, right? Where you don't just get to catch your breath all the time because there's a huddle on the other side. Now it's, hey, listen, you got to get your eyes, you got to get used to snapping your eyes to the sideline. You talk about young guys. Hey, what do young guys have to do better? They're used to just, hey, all right, I'm just going to walk to the huddle and, oh wait, you mean I got to look and actually get the signal, and I got to know what the whole signal means, and then I got to get my eyes back and I got to know what the offense is doing? Yeah, you do. And it's going to be even faster on game day. So, no, that's a huge help.
Without giving away those secrets that you mentioned, is there a particular kind of challenge from what Bush likes to do that's maybe a little different than what you've seen since you've been here?
Yeah, that would be corporate secrets. Right?
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Just us here.
You didn't like
Yeah,
talk
just-
about the offense. So we
No,
asked you
they-
questions about the offense.
Yes. I think it's all of it, right? It's pace of play, it's scheme, it's style, it's playmakers. I mean, you talk about the skill, in terms of Barrion and Dane, the tight ends. I know there's been a lot of talk about Hardley, and Hardley's been, really an unbelievable addition. I mean, the physicality, at the offensive line, all of it together stresses you. And then the route concept, the run game and the routes, there's just a ton of stress all the time. And even when you make a play, it's a move the ball period, and you create a negative play, a TFL, a sack, whatever the case may be, I know as a play caller, you're sitting there, you're like, okay, great, pin your ears back. Well, shoot, you pin your ears back, and whether it's the screen game, whether it's they're able to max it up and go deep, well, there's a lot that you have to account for. Oh, and by the way, now you got to account for a quarterback that can run, and you put it all together. There's a lot of pieces that you're trying to think about, and you're not going to be in a perfect play call, and you just got to hope that the guys can. If you call a bad one, they dig you out of a bad play call. And even if you execute great, there's enough playmakers on that offense, and then you throw in the pace. I mean, it's a challenge.
Okay, folks, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Brad. Everybody good? All right, questions for Coach?
Chris, we've heard a lot about Jansen this spring and the strides he's made. What have you seen from him in particular, and how he kind of responded coming off that?
Yeah, JD, he's grown both on the field and off the field. And he's bought into our process, and I think he's starting to see the benefits of that, and so excited about his growth. Still got a long way to go, just like all our guys, but understanding process is really important, especially at this generation, a lot of guys, and not just speaking of Jansen, talking in general now, a lot of guys want the instant gratification. But it takes time to grow and develop. And Coach Stoops, from the top down, has done a phenomenal job in our program of emphasizing it. And so guys, when they completely buy into it, I think they're able to see the growth and it builds confidence.
Is that particularly tricky for transfers because so many transfer guys are looking for that instant impact to come in and play right away somewhere? But even with a guy like Jansen, it still might take some development time.
Well, everybody's process is different, and so when we talk about that process, it's not necessarily pinpointing it for every person. Does that make sense? Some guys are their process is different in terms of that growth, right, and what that growth looks like. But committing to it, that's the most important piece.
Max is about as steady as you could get, right, in the secondary. But besides him, what else are you seeing in that group, and how are you liking how they're developing?
Man, compete. Again, Coach Bush and the offense, the receivers have done a phenomenal job of taking the step, and that's what, for us, helps sharpen our iron, and so I think those guys have done a really good job of continuing to compete. For us this spring, and talked about Max being consistent, that's our mantra, right? Stack days and be consistent in our craft and learn from the mistakes and not repeat those things because they're going to happen. All right, learn from those scars and not repeat them. And so I think he's grown in that regard, right? I think the group has grown in that regard, but they're competing. They're waking up every morning, putting their best foot down, right, and taking the opportunity to get better.
Replacing a guy like Andrew Phillips is not easy, obviously.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing that, and what do you see out of the guys to kind of take on that production?
Man. Drew's kind of one of those guys, man, that did so much for us, and you kind of take it for granted when he's here, and then all of a sudden, whoa, man, he played 2 positions. How you gonna feel him? But for us, man, we kind of always have, looking ahead in our forecast, and Coach White has done an amazing job in terms of kind of helping us develop our roster in that. And so, again, that process we talked about with JD is understanding, okay, what are the next steps, right? And so when those guys do elevate and go to the next level, right, who's been in position to grow and mature in that next step and that next opportunity. And so understanding that is really important, right? And then going to be able to execute that is really important. And so that's the process that we're in now, right? Executing those guys, taking that next step and filling that role.
You mentioned Drew playing 2 positions. Jansen kind of bounced back and forth. Is there a spot you want him to focus on right now in the spring, or are you kind of just mixing and matching, I guess, with?
Man, I just want guys to continue to get better. At the most important. We talk about, at the end of the day, man, DB play is about fundamentals, and that's something that we stress, on our stacking days is winning with fundamentals. And so those fundamentals can carry over to a lot of different positions, but at the end of the day, man, if I'm playing with great technique, great eyes, I'm going to have the opportunity to be successful, and so that's been our main focus.
With a guy like Max out there, how big is it to defense overall when you can find that guy across from him, the second guy to elevate and be close to what he gives you?
Yeah, it's huge, man. It's huge. And, again, Max has worked his way to that, you know what I mean? And so it's been good for the guys to see because he always wasn't that. We always knew he had it, right? But, again, working to that. And so that process that we spoke about, with some guys, understanding that and seeing kind of Max develop through it, right? And they can kind of take those same steps. And again, everybody's process is different, but identifying who that next guy on the other side can be is important to our growth as a defense. And again, I think we're working to do that.
What were those conversations like with those guys after the ball game when they got thrown into it on that last drive because the injuries didn't go the way you wanted, obviously, but you're going to need them moving forward to take those steps?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Coach Stoops, talks about it all the time. You learn the most from scars, you know what I mean? And so in that moment, it's hard, right? We're all frustrated, right? But understanding how not to make the same mistake, right? And that's been our mantra throughout the spring. Stack days, man. Stack days, continue to consistently get better, right? And so learning from that moment, right? Both as coaches and as players, right? Not always just putting it on the player, vice versa, putting it on the coach, but understand how we all can grow. And I think that's how we kind of attacked it and have been attacking it since I've been here.
Coach White talked a little bit about the challenge of facing Brock.
Yeah, Brock.
It sounds like a bit of a pain to the secondary because of everything he can do.
Yeah, he's a tremendous athlete back there, right? So he can throw it, really good arm talent, but he also is talented with his legs, can extend plays, and that's kind of the thing in the secondary when guys can extend plays, right? Make off-schedule throws and off-schedule plays, it really does stress you, and so on top of the system, now you got a guy, when you do cover it all up, the play breaks down, he can go make something happen, and now I got to be even more disciplined in my eye control, my technique, and my fundamentals. And so, yeah, he does, man. It's been fun to compete, it's been fun to accept the challenge every day, and I'm excited about where we are with it.
Picking on that coordinator title now. What does that look like for you? And do the meeting rooms look different? Just what's that role?
Man, first off, tremendous blessing. You know, thank Coach Stoops, Coach White for believing in me and blessing me with that opportunity. You know, I thank God daily. You know, don't take it for granted. You know, in terms of my growth and in terms of our growth defensively, man, we've got a great system. You know, Coach White, Coach Stoops have done an amazing job of building it. So for me in that role, it's just trying to continue to add to it. You know, I'd be a great foot soldier, right? Chip in the extra ways they ask me to, and grow individually as a coach as well. But at the end of the day, it's about being a great foot soldier and understanding that we have a successful system in place, and maybe tweaking one or two things here can also help us grow.
Everybody good? All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Understanding everything and doing what it takes to be able to go out there and make it happen.
Are they working you in both safety spots, free and strong, or is
Yes,
there
sir.
specific? Yeah,
Both safety spots, yeah.
Is there one you maybe feel more comfortable with from your time?
No, I don't really have a preference whether free or strong. I just like being out there.
Who was a guy that, you know, you learned from, you know, someone ahead of you?
Probably Zion. I learned the most from him. Just like the ins and outs of the defense. He seems like he has a pretty good grasp of it all. So I just go to him like if I have a question about something like in a moment or something like that.
I asked Coach, but I'll ask you too. Just, you know, outside of Max, who's as steady as can be, right? Maybe in the whole league. What else about the rest of the secondary group that you like?
We got a lot of playmakers back there. People who can make plays on the ball, or whether in the run game or in the pass game. So I feel like we're going to make a lot of plays in the secondary.
Is there a receiver you've matched up against that you particularly enjoyed battling?
As of right now, I enjoy going against AB. He do a really good job of making sure, you know what I'm saying, you working your technique and man-to-man and stuff like that. So those are the type of people I like going against.
That's Anthony Brown, right?
Yeah.
Why about him? Is it because he's shifty and
Oh yeah,
small?
he's a very shifty receiver. Like the smaller receivers are the ones who are hard for me to guard. So those are the ones who I like going against, and he give me a run for my money.
There's a lot of talent in that safety room, as you included. How impressed have you been with that group so far, just being around them now every day?
I've been very impressed because, as you said, like, it's a lot of talent in there. So just being around guys who are talented and just we're all working towards a common goal, it's been fun to work with them.
Coach White said powering through the dog days of camp, you know, first week so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what does that look like for you, and how have you seen the guys progress kind of through the dog days?
It's definitely been tough. But the guys have been doing a really good job of just going out there and making sure we're getting the most out of every day that we're out there, just so we can try to progress and stay on track with what we're trying to accomplish this fall.
What's something that you've learned about Coach White since you've been here and maybe appreciate about how they do it?
One thing I really like about Coach White, he's a really good teacher. Like, if I have like any concerns about anything, any questions about anything in the defense, like, I know I can go to him and he's gonna explain it in a way that I can understand it. Like, whether it's showing it to me or going out in the field to work it, like, he's a really good teacher.
Everybody good? All righty. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good. What's up, guys?
Question for Jansen? Yeah, so we've heard good things about you this spring. What's been the key to you taking some steps?
This past year, I've been working a lot harder, you know, with my teammates. Just getting a lot more reps, especially, you know, me playing nickel and corner. And it's just been work for me. So.
Are you still splitting time between those two, or are you focused mostly?
I'm still splitting time between corner and nickel, yes. Mm-hmm.
Would you like to do that, or would you rather focus on one more than the other?
I have no problem playing both positions. I love playing both positions, so it don't matter to me.
Coach Collins said replacing a guy like Andrew Phillips is tough because everything that he does. How have you and everyone else just kind of taken on that task of replacing a guy that's about to go to the NFL draft?
Well, I'd say watching Drew for a year helped me, especially him in the nickel spot. And we're pretty much at the same position that I'm pretty much at the same position that he was in last year, because he was splitting time with nickel and corner also. But I watched a lot of him last year, and I learned a lot from him, and he taught me pretty much everything I needed to know about the defense. So, just, you know, leverage things, coverage things, man coverage things, you know, just the simple stuff about the defense, Coach White's defense.
What's the biggest difference for you after a full year in the system and a full year of playing more than you had previously?
The difference, I'd say, relationship probably. I have better relationships with everybody in the building, and I feel like it's just even more of a home feeling to me now, even more than last year when I first came in. So, yeah.
You came in and made some plays against Louisville, played a lot in that Clemson game. How much did those reps give you confidence kind of going into the spring where you performed well here?
It gave me a ton of confidence because, you know, at my previous school, I didn't I didn't really get a lot of reps. So getting that in and finally going out there to show what I can do was very promising for me.
How did you all use that last drive from the bowl game as motivation throughout the offseason?
The last drive?
Yeah, when Clemson drove down and scored.
Ask that question again.
How did you use that drive as motivation, or did you? Was that something you thought about during workouts to build on, or do you just put that out?
Oh yeah, no, that I definitely think about that play a lot, or that drive a lot. We should have won that game, but you know it's passes now, and all I think about is the future and how we need to improve. So we're gonna get that right.
To use Tally's question about going up against Brock, you know, what does he do well as a quarterback? What's it like going up against him?
His ball placement is really well. I'd say each coverage snap that I'm in, the ball's always somewhere where I can't get to it. And you know, looking at that guy and seeing that he's on my team, I'm not mad at that. So it's just competing at the end of the day, and that's what we love to do. So.
Seems like when somebody does get their hands on it or a pick, is it something of a surprise?
I'd say yes, it is. Brock got some skills on him, man, and it's very hard to pick him off. So yeah, it is definitely a surprise when we finally do it to him.
You've heard a lot about Hardly Gilmore this spring. Have you matched up against him much?
Yeah.
What stands out about him?
Harley is a really explosive guy, and he has a lot of confidence for how young he is. And you know, when you see young freshmen that come in with a lot of confidence, you really you think of them higher than they are. And I think he's gonna be a special dude. And I've matched up with him a couple of times. He ain't to my level yet, but you know, he's getting there.
Everybody good? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Yep.